Hi, Bobby Thompson here with Crochet Guru, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet this sideways shell slouchy hat. So first of all, this hat is easy to make, but you will need to have a moderate knowledge of crochet skills. The finished size of this hat will fit a preteen to an adult woman, and it's approximately 20 inches around and 12 inches long. So I'm going to let you read up on the gauge, and just remember that we all crochet a little differently, so gauge is important when it comes to correct size. The materials we're going to need for this project: some soft worsted weight yarn, and I used Red Heart Love brand. I used approximately 180 yards, and the color I used is tan. We will be using 2 crochet hooks for this project, and you will need a J10 hook and also an H8 hook. You will need a yarn needle. You'll need 2 1-inch buttons that match the hat. You will need a needle and thread to sew on the buttons. Now if your buttonholes are bigger, you can use yarn and a yarn needle instead. And you will also need some scissors. And just so you know, this hat will not be worked in rounds. We're actually going to work this hat in rows and then stitch the hat together at the end. Okay, so one last thing before we get going. I always post a link to my patterns in the description boxes below. So if you need more information on the hat, or if you'd like to see more pictures of the hat, or maybe you just want a printout of the written pattern. So again, if you need any of those things, just click on the link in the description box below. Okay, so I know that was a lot to go through, so let's get started. We're going to start out by chaining 30, and remember to chain loosely. Okay, so start out by making a slip knot. Grab your hook, and we'll go ahead and chain 30. So while I'm chaining, I'm going to speed up the track, and then I'll show you what's next. Alright, so go ahead and read the pattern for row 1, and then I'll walk you through this step by step. Alright, we're going to start this row by double crocheting into the 4th chain from our hook. So yarn over and insert your hook into that 4th chain. Yarn over and pull through the chain. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook. And then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to skip the next 3 chains. Now in the 4th chain, we're going to single crochet, chain 3, and then place 3 more double crochets all into that next chain. So start out with a single crochet into that next chain. And now go ahead and chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to place 3 double crochets into that same chain. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3 double crochets all into that same chain. So now we're going to repeat everything we just did until we get to the last 4 chains. Now if you're looking at your pattern, just remember that everything in the parentheses is what we're going to be repeating. So when you're ready, go ahead and skip the next 3 chains. Place a single crochet into the next chain. Now chain 3, so there's 1, 2, and 3, and then place 3 double crochets all into that same chain. So there's 1, there's 2 double crochets, and there's 3 all into that same chain. So this is what it should be looking like, and let's just continue this pattern all the way down this row. So go ahead and skip 3 more chains, and then remember to place a single crochet into that next chain. Go ahead and chain 3, so there's 1, 2, and 3, and then place 3 double crochets into the same chain. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. So far your stitches should just be looking like a sideways shell. So now go ahead and skip 3 more chains, place 1 single crochet into the next chain, chain 3, and then place 3 double crochets into the same chain. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Okay, so I realize that this isn't looking like a hat and it's kind of a different way of making a hat, but by the time we're done, we're going to stitch everything together and it's going to look like a beautiful hat. So again, skip the next 3 chains, place a single crochet, chain 3, and then insert 3 double crochets. And remember that all goes into the same chain. So there's 1 double, 2 doubles, and then 3 double crochets. Alright, so I'm going to let you finish this row on your own, and remember there's going to be 4 chains left by the time you get done, and I'm going to show you what to do with those last 4 chains. So pause the video now to finish this up, and then I'll meet you back here to finish off this row. Okay, so now that we're to the last 4 chains, we're going to skip 3 chains, and now we're going to place a single crochet into that last chain. Now we're going to chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now let's turn our work to begin the next row. Now if you want to make sure you did this row correctly, go through and count 35 stitches for row 1. Okay, so rows 2 through 34 are going to be all the same. So go ahead and read up on this pattern and then I'll walk you through it step by step. So the first thing we're going to do on this next row is place a double crochet into our first single crochet. So the single crochet will be right by the chain we just made. So go ahead and yarn over and place a double crochet right into that next stitch right by the chain. Now we're going to skip the next 3 double crochets. Now remember, those next 3 double crochets are what's making up our first shell stitch. So skip those next 3 double crochets. And now we're going to place a single crochet. We're going to chain 3 and then place another 3 double crochets into that next chain 3 space. So locate the chain 3 and into that space we're going to place all those stitches. So let's start by placing a single crochet into that chain 3 space. So we're going to be working into that hole or into the gap underneath the chain 3, not into the stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch to show you the difference. So this is the stitch. We're not going to be working into the stitch, we're going to be working into the space. And again, that's the space underneath the chain 3. Now place a single crochet into that space around the chain. And now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochets all into that same space. So there's 1 double, there's 2, and there's 3 double crochets all into that same space. And now we're going to repeat everything we just did across this row. And remember, we're only going to be repeating everything that's in the parentheses. So again, we're going to skip the next 3 double crochets and we're going to place those series of stitches into that next chain 3 space. So start by placing a single crochet into that space, and then we're going to chain 3 and then place another 3 double crochets into that same space. So there's 2 and there's 3 double crochets. So let's do that again. Skip the next 3 double crochets and into that chain 3 space place a single crochet, chain 3, and then place 3 double crochets all into that same space. Okay, I'm going to show you this one more time and then I'll let you finish this row on your own. So skip another 3 double crochets, insert a single crochet into the chain 3 space, chain 3, and then insert 3 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So go ahead and finish off this row. So pause the video now and then I'll meet you back here to show you what we're going to do to end this row. So don't finish the row completely because I'll meet you back here to show you how to do that. Okay, so eventually you're going to get to the end of your row and you're going to run out of chain 3 spaces. So you're going to end up with a big gap. So in order to close off this gap, we're going to place a single crochet into the top of the turning chain. So locate the chain 3 from the previous row and insert a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3 and then we're going to turn our work. So now we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did for row 2. So go ahead and place a double crochet into that first single crochet. And remember, that's right by our chain 3. So place a double crochet. Okay, so I'm going to let you finish up rows 3 through 34 on your own. And just remember to skip the next 3 double crochet stitches and place a single crochet, a chain 3, and then 3 double crochets all into the chain 3 space. So if you need any help, go ahead and rewind to minute 6:14. Okay, so go ahead and read up on row 35, and again we'll just go through it step by step. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is just double crochet into the first single crochet. So it's just kind of the same thing we've been doing all along. So locate that first single crochet and place your double crochet into it. So there's your double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. And now we're going to single crochet into the next chain 3 space. So locate that chain 3 space and just place a single crochet. So there's your single crochet. And now we're going to chain 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now single crochet into the next chain 3 space. So there's your single crochet. And now we're going to repeat this pattern, and remember that's everything in the parentheses, and we're going to repeat it until the last 2 stitches on this row. Okay, so go ahead and chain 3 again, and then single crochet into that chain 3 space. We're going to chain 3 again. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then single crochet into the chain 3 space. Okay, so now's a good time to pause the video and finish up this row, and then I'll meet you back here to show you what we're going to do in the last 2 stitches of this row. Alright, to finish off this row, we're going to double crochet into the next single crochet. Now the single crochet is right before the turning chain, and then to finish we're going to place a double crochet into the top of the turning chain. And that's going to finish off this row for us. Okay, so before moving on to row 36, go ahead and switch to an H hook. Okay, so for row 36, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn our work. Instead, we're going to single crochet down the long edge of the hat, and we'll end up with about 70 single crochets. And then after that, we'll be chaining 10. Okay, so go ahead and switch to an H hook. And the first thing we're going to be doing is chaining 1. So now instead of turning our work, we're going to be single crocheting down the long edge of the hat. And we should end up with about 70 single crochets when we're done. Now the best way to end up with 70 single crochets is to place 2 single crochets into each row. We have 35 rows, so place 2 single crochets in each row along the long edge of the hat. So in each of these shells you'll place 2 single crochets. Okay, so I'm going to start single crocheting down this long edge. And again, I'm just going to place 2 single crochets in each shell. And that will give me 70 stitches by the time I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate these single crochets just a couple more times, and then I'll let you finish up this row on your own. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then I'll meet you back here to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so now that you're done with the 70 single crochets, we're now going to chain 10. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Moving on to row 37, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from our hook, and then we're going to single crochet in each remaining chain and single crochet across, and we'll get a total of 79 single crochets. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do on row 37 is single crochet into the second chain from our hook. So place your first single crochet, and now let's go ahead and single crochet in each remaining chain and in each remaining single crochet across. So I'm just going to single crochet down this chain, so it's pretty simple. And I'm going to speed up the track just a little bit so I can get to my single crochets. And now I'm just going to start single crocheting into my single crochets. So you're just going to do exactly the same thing except for into the single crochets this time. So I'm going to do a few of these with you, and then I'll let you finish up this row because this is going to be really simple, and then I'll show you how to do the next few rows after this. Moving on to rows 38 to 45, it's going to be really easy. All we're going to do is chain 1 and then single crochet in each single crochet across. Okay, so let's go ahead and chain 1. And then we need to turn our work. And then all we're going to do is just single crochet in each single crochet across. So very simple, and we're going to be doing that for rows 38 through 45. So I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit, and I'm going to let you continue on, and I'm going to let you finish up through rows 45. And so when you're ready, go ahead and pause the video and continue working until row 45, and then I'll meet you back here to show you how to put this hat together and sew on the buttons. When you're finished with row 45, we're going to fasten off, leaving an 18-inch tail for attachment. Alright, so just remember to leave about an 18-inch tail, and this is how we're going to actually sew our hat together. So I'm going to cut that, leaving quite a long strand, and I'm going to fasten off. So insert your hook into the last loop, yarn over the hook, and pull through that loop on your hook, and just fasten that all the way off. Okay, so here's the instructions for sewing the sides of the hat together, and I'll go ahead and show you how to do that now. Alright, so grab your yarn needle and thread that 18-inch tail through it, and what we're going to do is close up the sides. So go ahead and bring your sides together, both the left and the right, and we're not going to be doing any overlapping, so just make sure your sides are side by side, just like this. Now our hat band will be overlapping, and that's going to be where our buttons will be placed. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing in the hat band first, and I'm going to go underneath the overlap. So just start sewing together these sides, and remember just to go underneath and just sew underneath that overlap. And I'm just whip stitching these together, these sides. I'm just going back and forth with my yarn needle. Now as I'm sewing this together, I'm trying to be careful not to go through the whole entire stitch on the overlapping part of the hat band. That way you won't be able to see the stitches after it's all finished. Okay, so I'm skipping ahead just a little bit so that you can see how I am stitching together just the sides, and I'm just stitching those right together. When you get to the top of the hat, we're getting ready to fasten this part of the hat off, so just weave in and out of the hat a couple of times and then cut off the yarn strand. Okay, so before we move on to the top part of the hat, just notice that there are a couple of holes in the hat, and if you don't like that look, which I really don't, I'm going to go back through, I'm going to take another strand of yarn, and I'm going to go back through and I'm just going to close those holes up, and that way you don't see those. So just go back through and start closing up those holes, and I think it just makes the hat look a lot better. So let's go ahead and move on, and we'll go ahead and close the top of the hat. So go ahead and cut another strand of yarn, about 18 inches, and we're going to thread that through a yarn needle. We need to turn our hat inside out. And now what we're going to do is just start weaving our yarn in and out along the top edge of the hat. When you're weaving, try to make sure your stitches are even, and that way when we cinch the hat together, it will just cinch together a little bit more easily. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It should cinch together pretty easily no matter what. Okay, so now that you kind of understand how to do this, I'm going to speed up the track again. Okay, so now once you sew around the entire hat, go ahead and pull your yarn and cinch it all together. And just make sure to close up that hole as best you can. You probably will still have a little hole when you're finished, so now what we're going to do is just weave back and forth, closing up that hole. So again, just go over the cinched area a few times, and when you feel good about it, go ahead and tie off the yarn and close it up. Now I don't typically tie my yarn when I'm done, but you can. That is an option. What I'm going to do is just make sure it's really secure. I'm going to weave in and out of those stitches a few times and then just cut that yarn off. Okay, so when you're done, turn your hat right side out again, and we're going to go ahead and attach our buttons. Okay, so this is what the button assembly looks like on our pattern. So go ahead and place your buttons on the overlapping part of the hat band. So my buttonholes are big enough for me to use a yarn needle and some yarn. Your buttonholes might be smaller, so you might want to use some thread and a thread needle. So buttons are really easy to stitch on, so I'm just going to go over this really quickly. Right before you fasten off your buttons, make sure to weave in and out several times on the underneath side of the hat before cutting the yarn with your scissors. And then if you choose to have a second button, just do the same thing. So this is what our finished hat looks like. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. And please don't forget to subscribe for more videos and more updates.